Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Growth Class. I'm your host, Phil Masiello, and today we're talking about a founder who didn't just inherit a family tradition, she completely reinvented it. Most entrepreneurs try to build something from scratch, but our guest today, Melissa Tavss, is looked back at her family history of ice cream making that stretched all the way to the 1800s and decided to give it a modern, high-proof twist. As the founder and CEO of Tipsy Scoop, she's turned a simple pushcart concept into a multi-million dollar barlour empire with locations from New York City to the Bahamas. And so we're going to dive into how she scaled that niche product into a national brand, the realities of franchising a premium experience, and what it actually takes to maintain 200 years of quality while staying relevant in today's market. Melissa, welcome to the show. I'm happy to have you, and I'm glad you took the time to come on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Sorry we're not eating ice cream right now.
So am I. I love ice cream. So tell me your history. We read about it. We pulled up some other bio info, but it seems like you have this really strong history to ice cream.
Yeah, so ice cream making runs in my family from back in the 1800s. They brought over gelato from Italy to Scotland when that was a very novel concept. So very deep roots in ice cream making. Decided to add a bit of a boozy twist. Um, I don't know if you've tried to make ice cream at home ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but
No.
they've made it easier now with all the cool machines they have out, like these Ninja Creamies and all these things that kinda do the work for you, but, about 15 years ago when I was really experimenting with perfecting my homemade ice cream recipe, it wasn't so easy. We had the Cuisinart tabletop machine that has the freezing cylinder, and my ice cream was just coming out all icy on the sides. It was not that ice cream consistency that we know and love. And with this deep history and family tradition in ice cream making, I thought, how am I getting this wrong? I just can't keep the recipe, coming out the way I want to. So I decided to add like a tablespoon of alcohol to soften my ice cream mix. Recipes call for that just to kind of achieve a softer consistency when it's coming out icy. And I think the first flavor I experimented with was just a vanilla and adding a little bourbon to that, and really fell in love with this flavor that I came up with, which was the vanilla bean bourbon ice cream. The alcohol came through just a little, and the consistency of the ice cream was softer and better and more of that consistency of ice cream that we know and love. And then unlike baking, with alcohol, like making a rum cake where the alcohol content burns off at the end, when I was making ice cream, I was churning the alcohol into the ice cream mix, so it actually held an alcohol content. So that's how I really fell in love with the idea of boozy ice cream and kind of was able to expand on that family tradition of ice cream making.
Yeah, it's fantastic. As I told you, I actually tried it in one of your stores, and I did try the vanilla bourbon because I love vanilla, and I thought, what the heck? How bad could that be with bourbon? It was it was fantastic. But I early on in my business life, I was involved with a chain of specialty food stores in DC, and then we bought Heyday Markets in Connecticut, and we actually bought Balducci's, but we made our own ice cream.
Oh,
In
nice.
in the company, yeah, and, not with booze in it, but so I do know a little bit about just enough to be dangerous about ice cream, but I love ice cream. I mean, I could
Yeah.
honestly eat ice cream every day, but I would also weigh like 6,000 pounds, so I can't do it. I have to temper it, but I love it. So, but how did you get the idea to really start, building stores, and then were there regulatory issues that you came into contact with trying to do this?
But yeah, if I start another business in the future, it's gonna be non-alcoholic crackers, something very easy that doesn't need to be frozen, that doesn't have an alcohol content. I picked probably the hardest category
Yeah, I was gonna
possible that
say,
is
yeah.
still developing. But I really wasn't aware that I was starting a business when I started. I just kind of fell in love with this concept of boozy ice cream and became obsessed with perfecting my recipes. from there, I was actually in the middle of a kind of career transition. I had been working actually in wine and spirits, doing marketing and events for about 7 years right out of college. And was a little burnt out from that, was kind of in this transition, like, what do I want to do next? So while I was in grad school at NYU, I kind of was starting to make these recipes. And then I got a lot of interest from my previous liquor brand clients in having custom ice creams made for them for their upcoming events. So from there, I bought an ice cream push cart and started to do catering and events, mostly for my old clients while I was still, in grad school. So it really wasn't a full business at that point. It was a side hustle before side
Right,
hustles
right.
were a thing. And it was a really great way to start with this catering and events because I was able to rent kitchen space from a kitchen incubator up in East Harlem. So I didn't have like upfront costs of, rent and equipment. And all that. So it was really made to order. So really great way to like test the market and see if it was viable, whether I knew it was going to become a business or not. And that really picked up. So it picked up so much that I was not even wanting to finish my graduate school program. I think the 2-year program I finished in 4.5 years because the business just really started developing beyond catering. I signed up with a company called Gold Belly, which was just starting at the time as well, and started doing e-commerce fulfillment with our ice cream pints, then added in wholesale and started selling to specialty grocery stores around New York City. So I had a few different revenue streams going at that point. Again, it was still kind of this side hustle because it wasn't a full commitment to, spaces that I leased or owned or anything like that. Everything was really made to order. But then in 2016, we had Insider Food come in and produce a video of the behind the scenes making of the ice cream. So they came in and we kind of dramatically poured alcohol into the top of the machine, which isn't exactly how we make the ice cream. And these like beautiful ribbons of ice cream came out of the machine. And it was a perfect demonstration of what we were doing. That video went viral on Facebook at the time. So it got like 10 million views in 2 days and we did not have a storefront. So we just were in this kitchen incubator that is under a bridge in East Harlem, very hard to find. People were calling my cell phone, looking for the ice cream shop they saw online, somehow found us in this production facility as well, and just started buying pints from us. Um, but found us there in hairnets making ice cream. So it was pretty crazy. And that really didn't stop. And honestly, it was just the response to that video and customer demand that kind of forced me into brick and mortar. I think it was something I wouldn't have done ever if there wasn't that like demand for it and kind of test of the market for those, 3 or 4 years I started and was just kind of developing the business slowly. So,
Are you selling into any retail stores, or you do it yourself and then through your franchise stores?
yeah, we have a small wholesale business. It's mostly bars, restaurants, and concession. Not a whole lot or really any big box grocery retail. It's just a developing category and it doesn't, sell as well in like a Costco or a Walmart as it would if it was in an arena or stadium or something like that.
Do you need I d do you need to have, like, specific licensing to sell the product? Like, does it if a store wants to carry it, does the store have to have a liquor license?
Yeah, so that is a complicated question. So, liquor infused ice cream in New York, if it's under 5% or below, it's considered a non-beverage. So you do not need any sort of liquor license to carry the product to sell it in any form. You just have to card end consumers to ensure they're 21 or over. But state by state, that obviously varies. If you know anything about, liquor licensing state by state, it's a mess. There's
Sure.
so many nuances. And so what we did is we got federal approval as a non-beverage by the Alcohol and Tobacco Bureau, or TTB. So similar to a kombucha or a vanilla extract that contains alcohol but can't be mistaken for alcohol. We got these non-beverage TTB approvals. It Having federal approval is one thing. Obviously, a state has to say they want to follow federal approval or they don't. So long story short, it varies a lot state by state, which is kind of why in our franchising opportunity, we've laid out certain states where we not only have distribution, but where you won't kind of run into those hurdles of like, what is this considered? Is this an alcohol? Is this a food? So had to do some extensive research there too.
Is that a pain in the neck? I would imagine that's a pain in the neck.
It is definitely a pain in the neck. I am like weirdly into it at this point. And it's interesting because kind of similar to like cannabis and all of these shops that you have springing up around the country, like these laws are going to change and they just change slowly and over time. So it's kind
Yeah.
of interesting to just like watch them and kind of see these states where it was like, oh, you can never do this, and then all of a sudden you can. So it's just kind of, a matter of time.
Yeah, we s we sold beer and wine in the specialty food stores, except in one county in the state of Maryland. We were mostly in DC, and it was okay to sell beer and wine in DC in the stores.
Mhm.
And then when we moved into the counties around DC, Virginia is different because Virginia, you have to buy through the
The
state.
ABC, yeah.
Yeah, ABC, and then in the state of and then in Maryland, it's different in every county. And as we moved north, there was one county where if you had a beer and wine license, you also sold liquor. And so it came with everything. You couldn't just get a beer and wine license, you got everything, which was fine, except that on Sundays, you could only sell beer for takeout. You couldn't sell wine and liquor. So we used to have to take the store and close off sections of the store on Sundays. It was the most bizarre thing in the world. But that was, and
Yeah.
we're talking about, quite a long time ago. And I can remember then all of us, all the retailers were lobbying to get the laws changed. And I think recently I saw, because I'm not in that business anymore, but recently I saw that there is a bill that if it gets passed will ease up all of that in the state of Maryland and
Oh, yeah.
unify it.
Yeah, that I mean, everything is I think they really relaxed with the like cocktails to go kind of stuff during COVID, but there's so many like particulars of all of these laws. It's kind of crazy. I don't even know who can keep up with them, especially just state by state, county by county. It's nuts.
Yeah. No, you have to have a specialty attorney to do it
Mhm.
who knows the laws. So I do feel, for you. How many franchises do you have? And how many owned stores do you have and how many franchises?
So we have 3 company-owned stores, and then we have this will be our 8th franchise to open in Baltimore this weekend coming up. So excited about that one. And then we have a handful of franchises who have signed agreements who are still looking for space and things like that. So really, our idea with the franchise model is to use that to continue to be a first mover in this alcohol infused ice cream category and really be able to get up and running in all these metropolitan markets where we think they could use a boozy ice cream shop. So,
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'll have to go to the one in Baltimore
yes,
this
yeah.
weekend. Yeah. And all your company-owned stores are in New York?
Yes, they're all in the New York City area. So, another reason kind of why we decided to franchise was really to be able to lean on our franchisees as like experts in their area. Having done like pop-ups and licensing deals in different markets, we were always like so shocked by like different flavor preferences, even if you go like an hour away. So it's really been a beneficial way for us to grow just because we can be like, what do people like here? And, really kind of have a nice local team that's able to represent the brand for us.
Where are the 8 franchise stores? One's in DC.
So we have DC, we have Baltimore coming up, we have Phoenix, Arizona, Portland, Oregon. We have one in the Bahamas that also is in Miami as well. And then we have, who am I missing? Nashville. And then another franchise in Astoria, Queens. So that is one of the franchises that's closest to us.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's a good
Yeah.
spread. Yeah, it's fantastic. So what does the process look like for getting more franchisees? Are they coming to you or are you doing outreach to people?
Yeah, we have been lucky. We had, you know, everybody kind of says the reason they decided to franchise was because they had all these franchise inquiries. And I think one of the first thing, franchise consultants and experts in the field say to you is like, that doesn't really matter, file those emails. But the second you go live and are official with your actual franchise opportunity, like probably none of those leads are going to work out. Which they were definitely right about. But we did have a lot of franchise leads. So once we opened the first brick and mortar, people were like, is this a franchise? Is this a franchise? Thank God it wasn't at that point because we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah, yeah.
But now that we know and like really, it is an easy operation and really, really conducive to franchising. We were able to get it up and running. So, most of or all of our franchise leads have been organic. We have a really strong social following. So a lot of them, I believe, came from like LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram. And some came from, relationships we already had. So some of our franchisees, had wholesale accounts with us. So like one of our franchisees had a liquor store in Portland, Oregon, and she was selling our pints. And once the franchise opportunity came up, she was like, I definitely want to do more with Tipsy Scoop. The pints are selling well. I want to have more of a full storefront. So we've been lucky in that way. But I think, really my goal in starting with franchising, was to get to a place where I had like 10 franchises up and running and then really say, okay, do we want to invest in, marketing and trade shows, to get more franchise leads and kind of go from there. But the 10 was all we could handle in the beginning. And it really is a lot of work. So
Yeah, I would imagine. And so now you've got franchisees, but you're providing the ice cream to them.
yeah, so that's kind of one of the things I think is the nicest thing about our franchise model is really just like the ease of the operations. None of the ice cream is made by the franchisees, so it's all distributed in 3-gallon tubs from our co-packer. That's up in Red Hook, New York. So they have a dairy farm up there. Like all the ice cream is actually very high quality and made right there. So we're able to keep close tabs on that, which is really nice too. And then for the franchisee, like, they're learning and being trained in how to use certain freezers and how to scoop certain sundaes and cocktails. But really, they can focus on the customer experience because they don't have to deal with the production of the ice cream. And unlike having a cafe or bakery or restaurant where they have all this inventory that, is going to go bad if they don't sell it one day, the ice cream has a shelf life of 15 months. So it really is like a nice operation for somebody who's also kind of like a fan of food and hospitality, but not necessarily like wanting their own restaurant too.
Yeah, that's cool. So is the manufacturers making the ice cream and putting the alcohol into the ice cream in a central place, and then everybody's buying it from you?
Yeah, yeah. So, one thing I kind of learned early on too was as much as making new flavors is very fun for me. making ice cream in large batches was something I never wanted to do again to, do it for a while. So once we signed on with a co-packer, we were pretty excited to kind of like offload that. So, they have crazy big machines where they can control, every aspect of ice cream making, including something called overrun, which has to do with the amount of air added to ice cream. So one of the things, even with a larger batch freezer, that kind of more mom and pop shops might run into is like their ice cream is made in small batches, so it's not the same every time because the amount of air that they add to it is just a little different, every time. Whereas this co-packer has a little machine, they type in the amount of air they want added and it kind of runs the same every time. So that's been really nice for that consistency and kind of to be able to focus more on the brand and the sales and the marketing.
Yeah. It's ice cream making is really, really, it's really interesting to me when and I said early on, we had our own small manufacturing place, but for the stores that we had, which were we had 12 stores in the DC marketplace, specialty food stores, and it was really high quality ice cream. But and we were roasting our own coffee also, and this was before it became popular. And we actually got trained in how to do it by the guys up at Green Mountain Coffee in Vermont, who also
Nice.
took us to the Ben and Jerry's plant when Ben and Jerry were just they were already in business for a long time, but it wasn't as big as it is now. It was still the plant in I forget the town, but it was sophisticated, but it was really, really interesting, how they were doing it because, all those dairy trucks come every day. I mean, I forget the number of trucks that are coming every day, something like 200 or 300 trucks a day full of, dairy items that because they're still manufacturing for shipment all over the world. I think they have one plant outside the United States, but they're shipping all over the world from that one plant in Vermont, and it's really interesting because, like I said, I love it. I used to do triathlons, and my big thing was after the triathlon, I would go to the store and I would buy 2 pints of Ben& and Jerry's, and I would eat them both eat 'em both
That's
because I figured I just burned off all those calories. I don't care. I'm gonna eat that's
yeah.
what I'm gonna eat. It's better for me than a sandwich, so, anyway.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen some ice cream makers kind of go the route of like one large production plant and everything's made there and everything's shipped out, which obviously, freezer vans and trucks are expensive, but you do get to control the consistency in that way. And then others kind of set it up. I know Cold Stone had a model at one point where the ice cream was actually made at each individual franchise. So I'm sure there's, pros and cons to both, but it's definitely not the easiest product to get around for sure.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not. It's a challenge. Yeah, I didn't like, there was another one early on, called Maggie Moo's
Yes. Yep.
that do you remember them?
Yeah, I have spoken to the founder and he sold to another company, but I think he's in St. Louis or something like that, I want to say, but yeah, very similar concept to Cold Stone. And it's funny because one of our franchises is in Phoenix, which I guess Cold Stone is an Arizona brand and everybody loves it. I'm like, not so much on the East Coast, but
No, there's a few, but it didn't, it didn't appeal as much, taking adding the additives and doing the whole thing. It didn't appeal as much as, people wanna come in and they wanna get their ice cream. Like, you could put a Ben& and Jerry's store in next to a Cold Stone, and Ben& and Jerry's gonna outperform 'em,
yeah,
dramatically, so
yeah, for sure. And frozen desserts like go through these crazy trends all the time. And I think like with the liquid nitrogen stuff and kind of the performance aspect of Cold Stone, people get a little sick of that stuff at some point.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, but I'm a dessert person. It's more important to me than the, than the entree. When I go out to eat, I'm always thinking about the dessert before the entree. To me, it's like, I'll get the smallest entree because I gotta get the biggest dessert. But, you know, what are you gonna do? So, what are your top priorities for the company over the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, definitely continuing growth on the actual brick and mortar storefronts, and kind of focusing on that over wholesale and even online. It's just a great way for us to continue to grow and be able to have control over the entire brand experience. Um, and we're a very niche specialty product, so I'm never gonna have, 100 stores in, 5 states. Like, it's not a sandwich shop or a coffee shop. Like, we're very aware that, there's certain markets where we could have maybe 3 or 4 stores, but not really more than that. So, really just continuing to build out, um, through the franchise opportunity in these major metropolitan markets where we already have catering clients and have done events and have relationships with the stadiums. So really focusing on growing through brick and mortar.
Yeah, that's great. That's, uh, that's pretty smart. You think you'll go into, the supermarket side or the Costco side at any point?
I think that it is far away because I think that the category just is so new still. And, when I started 12 years ago, there was no category. So it was even worse because you had just a liquor infused food that nobody knew what to do with. And now, there's actually laws about it, which is crazy, and definitely more helpful than having nothing at all. But I think still by the time, you go into like big box grocery retail, like you really need everybody to understand that boozy ice cream is a thing and for it to almost have its own section, in the ice cream aisle, for it to be successful, for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good strategy. I'm surprised that Costco, though, hasn't come crawling because, they usually try and, bring in, things that nobody else has before anybody else has them. So, but, you know, and they would probably only bring in 1 SKU or 2 SKUs anyway. But,
Yeah.
the hard part there would be you'd have to be out there sampling, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, I think that, we really started really small and were able to grow kind of quickly based on starting so small, because we didn't need a whole lot of capital to get that first 300 square foot store up and running. And another thing, we were able to really use social media from the beginning to really like test menu items, whether we were gonna open a store or not. So, I think, social media really continues to be a powerful marketing tool for us to continue to grow. So,
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think that, especially when you have something that's so different, like you said, the category didn't exist when you started, and that's the best way to do it, as long as there's a market for it and as long as people love it. And what I like about your story is that, it just sort of proves that growth isn't just about the newest tech or the loudest marketing. It's about finding sort of that unique why and having the discipline to scale it right. Not necessarily, I think, there's so many entrepreneurs that I know that would have been pounding the streets going, I want as many franchises as possible in the next 2 years. And to be able to take a methodical approach and say, we're going to do it this way and we're going to go into these markets and this is how we're going to do it, I think is very, very smart. But yeah, I think that starting from the push cart and testing and understanding the market before you started rolling, I think is another smart move. So, uh, everybody, you say you can buy the product from Goldbelly?
yep, I think the promo code on Goldbelly is stay tipsy. for your first order. So I think it gives you like $20 off. But yeah, Goldbelly's great, great gifting opportunity, whether it's Tipsy Scoop or, you can get tuna shipped from Hawaii. It's wild.
Yeah, yeah, no, we use, we're quite familiar. But yeah, you can find the product on Goldbelly. You can find it in any place where they have stores: Miami, Washington D.C., Portland, soon to be Baltimore, Arizona. So if you got a store, go check it out, and you can look for the barlours, wherever they are. And as always, thanks for joining. And remember, stop chasing the top line. If it's costing you your soul, focus on the unit economics, stay authentic, keep building, and we'll see you next time.